Hello, this is our last episode of the Birth and Baby Business Show for the year. So we thought, as we have done our full calendar year of the podcast now, even though our first birthday was earlier in the year, that we would do a little summary and sort of talk about some of our favourite moments from 2025 on the podcast because we've had such an amazing time, haven't we? Interviewing some amazing people, and yeah, we just thought we'd like talk through it, review it, talk about some of our favourite bits and what they've meant to us. Because what I notice is when we're interviewing people quite often and we're having those conversations, is we come back to a lot of these episodes again and things that people have said. So yeah, what about you, Liz? What are some of your standout moments from the podcast?
Well, I just want to point out for any listeners there that Anna has not gone into the future. She is reflecting on 2024 and not 2025.
Oh my God, I am. I was wondering why you're smiling. My brain's basically in 2025. I'm so excited for this next year. So I'm basically there already. So apologies for confusing you.
Exactly. We are reflecting on 2024. And I think specifically, we're going to be focusing on the Lessons from a Birth and Baby Business Owner series. Like, if you're an avid listener, you'll know that we do, it's not solo episodes because there's two of us, but we do episodes where it's just us two. But this series, when we started it, I can't remember the month we actually started the first Lessons from a Birth and Baby Business Owner, but I'm going to guess it was probably something like June, maybe July. I feel like it was around the sort of summer months, and the idea
late
for
spring,
it, the inspiration behind it was that we love sharing our wisdom and our experience and like all the knowledge that we've got from working in the birth and baby world and running successful, sustainable, profitable businesses. But we also know that we don't know everything, and our experience is not the be all and end all. We wanted to share what other amazing businesses out there, because we know that if you listen to and get inspired by and see other people out there doing it, it shows you what's possible for you. And there's always something you can learn from people who are, 1 step, 2 step, 3, 10 steps ahead of you. So that was the inspiration behind it. And I really, really feel like we've achieved that with it. There's so many great episodes, like full of advice and things you can connect with, and really surprising things as well. People were very open with us and very honest with us, and I really appreciate that. So perhaps before we get into some of the episodes, I think just thanking everybody who has been a guest on our 2 series of Lessons from a Birth and Baby Business Owner. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for sharing everything you did with us and our listeners.
Yeah, we have loved it, and there's some real threads, isn't there, that I feel have woven all the way through every single episode. And I cannot get enough of listening to everyone's story, because everyone's story is different, but there's definitely these common themes that come up every single time about people who have, if you want, made it, or whatever you want to have had a successful business, or however you want to kind of label them. They've done it in their own way, but there's some of these lessons, I feel like every single episode was a reminder of that lesson. And I personally need to hear those lessons a lot. So it's been really great for me listening to these episodes. Sometimes I'm even like, when I'm in a bit of a funk, I'm feeling a lot of doubt. I'm like, I think back to that episode or what someone said, and it really gives me that boost. So it's been actually very magical for me, this whole series. But a lot more has come from it for me personally than I expected. And so that is why I really hope we carry on doing this series, Lessons from a Business Owner, because it's been invaluable to me. I think, I'd love to mention the first episode. I think we come back to this episode a lot with Cheryl McDonald.
Because it's amazing.
It was such a good episode. And the thing that, so Cheryl is the founder of Yoga Bellies, and there's a couple of things about Cheryl. The one thing is that she just like lives her life. Like right now, she's living in Bali. When we spoke to her, she was living in Singapore, I think.
Singapore, yeah.
But her business started out in Scotland, and what I love about her story is she just had an idea and she just got on with it. There was like no, I'm sure there were ifs and buts and all this kind of stuff, but there was, she just did it, and she turned her living room into a yoga studio. That's how devoted she was to this, this idea that she had. She wanted to do it. She had a young baby. She didn't have a loads of money to throw at it. She was just like, well, I want to teach yoga. I'm going to do it in my house. We're going to shift around our family to make this work. And that's what she did.
Yeah.
And it just blew me away. But it's so simple. It's such a simple message. Like, if you really believe in your business, you will find a way to make it work. And you will find a solution to all those little excuses and those little doubts that pop up in your mind. You'll find an answer to them and you'll make it work. And I just think that was such a great example of somebody doing that.
Yeah, that really stuck out in my mind about Cheryl as well. And like, I have to say that I was a total Cheryl like fan before, well, just forever really. So I remember when I was setting up my business, I became aware of, well, my first business, like my local business, I became aware of Yoga Bellies and of Cheryl and what she was doing. And so I've kind of kept a keen eye on Cheryl and Yoga Bellies as she's grown and developed. Never connected with her, never sort of, like became biz buddies with her or anything like that. But she is such a warm, welcoming person. When we reached out to her from BABBA and started to connect with her, like she is such a wonderfully supportive person. She was just, she was like, yeah, of course. I don't know. Like, she didn't know us from Adam, but she was like, yeah, of course I'll come on your podcast. Yeah. And she was so super easy to talk to. So that really stuck out for me. And the other thing is as well, and I knew this at the time from following her, is that Cheryl was on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
And I just loved that whole, like, the conversation we had in that episode about it, about how she felt and like how surprising the experience was, and like on all her nerves and fears and worries and doubts and what came from it was, very exciting and very just a very different episode. I thought it was our first episode, but it just felt like that set the bar. What on earth was to come? So very grateful to Cheryl for sharing that with us, and just being so open and honest and down to earth and relatable. She's great. So check that episode out if you haven't already. Another episode that we both enjoyed was with Holly Grant, who's founder of the Bump Plan. So Holly is she's basically an award-winning Pilates instructor and personal trainer, and she has got this amazing community on Instagram. So if you're not following her, then do. She had an incredible story to tell. I really enjoyed talking to Holly. Again, we didn't know Holly at all. So it was another one of those people that, like Cheryl, we reached out to. We liaised with her team, and then there she was at the allotted time, and she was so like lovely and friendly and welcoming and so open and willing to share her story, which was, like very interesting and intriguing as well.
Yeah, the thing that really stands out for me from Holly's was we got talking about one of our sort of, a subject that's really close to our hearts, which is, being a woman in business and how tough that can be. And she has some real humdingers of stories, didn't she, about like, because her husband works for her now. He didn't when she was first setting up the business, and now he sort of works. I don't know exactly what he does, but he works for her. And she said there's so many assumptions even now, all these years in. She's got all these awards and she's got this studio and she's got this, she's done so well in business. There's all these assumptions that she either, her husband funded her idea or that he's the brains behind it and she's just the face kind of thing, and like all these things that we have to put up with as women in business. And like that really kind of has stuck with me, and that reminder that we are
Mm.
often swimming against the tide, and it's really important to me that we as women, stand up for ourselves and are very clear that these are our businesses, and that we've actually done this on our own. We've done.
Definitely. God, it's so frustrating, isn't it, to hear that, and to that, for that to be the assumption of people. But again, like, Holly is just such I don't know, she's like a real powerhouse, but she's
Yeah,
also like so down to earth, and um so like willing to share her wisdom. I really enjoyed chatting to her, and I just remember her talking about how she'd started out as a PT, and she just kind of ended up working very much with
mm,
women, and then it suddenly started, not suddenly, but I think it gradually started to niche down into pregnant women, and then there she was, then wanting to create something different and bring something else to the birth and baby world, which we obviously love to hear all about.
yeah,
So make sure you check out that episode as well. So good.
yeah, really good. And the other person in that sort of first series of lessons from a birth and baby business owner we had the pleasure and honour of speaking to was Kemi Johnson. So that
What
was
a woman.
also an amazing conversation. I mean, she's just
Yeah.
so inspiring, and we follow Kemi online. I actually did get to know Kemi a little bit. Over the pandemic, we did some stuff on Clubhouse together, which, if you don't know what it is, don't worry, no one really uses it anymore. But I think Kemi is still on there. But anyway, so I got to know her a bit then. We were having some like deep conversations about the
Yeah.
birth world and things like that back then. But she's an incredible person, but she gets a lot of stick. She gets a lot of stick basically online from people, and sadly not just people, people inside the birth world, which is
Mm.
which is a really big thing. And she shared a bit, she opened her heart a little bit about that, and about her sort of like how she deals with it, and how she keeps
Yeah.
going with her purpose and her messaging, despite the kind of stuff that people say about her.
Mhm.
So that was really, a really powerful conversation for me.
Yeah, definitely. I loved speaking to Kemi. So I never really knew Kemi very well. Obviously, knew her online, and we were aware of each other. And I think, like, way, 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 way back, we were both in a similar circle. Some Facebook groups, had some mentors in common, but never really got to know her. But I have always watched her from afar, and I've seen her um, come become more in the forefront online, being more stepping into that activist role,
Yeah.
and really speaking up and speaking out for people, which is such an important thing in the birth world in particular,
Mm,
especially at the moment when there's so much going on in maternity services.
yeah.
There's so much injustice in terms of like the disparities in maternal mortality rates, but also the maternal system as a whole, and how it
Yeah.
treats women and people. It's really, somebody's got to step up and challenge it, and Kemi's not the only one. But I'm very grateful for people like that who do that kind of work.
Mm,
And it's not for everybody. It's not everybody is that vocal, or that can do that role so well. So hats off to Kemi. I've got a lot of admiration and respect for her, and I've really, really enjoyed chatting to her and hearing her,
yeah.
like, for all of the kind of activist side of her, which has to be like very, very like strong, and say what she thinks, and be
Mm,
very vocal. There's also this like lovely nurturing like softer side to Kemi, which I think you do see in her online videos. But I
absolutely.
think maybe the people that are criticizing her are not kind of seeing her in all her entirety, and all those different dimensions to her. So I think that podcast episode really gives us a really great insight into who Kemi is, and what she's passionate about, and why. So yeah, I loved that. I really, really loved that conversation.
Yeah, it was great.
And then we had the second series, didn't we? Because we were like, oh my God,
Yeah.
we enjoyed that so much. We enjoyed that. doing that whole series. We've got to do more. And there's just so many businesses out there that we wanted to chat to. And honestly, as we're talking now, I keep thinking of more and more episodes that I want to talk about, but I've just got to focus on a few of them. So the person who opened the second series was Emma Armstrong, aka the Naked Doula. So I'm sure those of you in the birth world particularly are familiar with Emma and her work, which is very very unique and very different.
Very.
She brings a lot of visuals and her own experience as an illustrator and designer to her work, and it's amazing. The thing I love about Emma is she's so unapologetically herself. I really enjoy hearing her talk about her journey, she has had a roller coaster, still so young, and has had a roller coaster of a life so far, and has just had so much life experience. It's so interesting to hear how she got to where she is right now with the Naked Doula, and the other work that she's doing in her other business that she's set up. So I really enjoyed that. What was your favourite bit?
Yeah, I thought it was a really great conversation. I really enjoyed, and the thing is, I think often because of the way social media is, we often sort of dream of that going viral. Do you know what I mean? Like that, being an overnight success. Sorry. Cheryl talks about that a little bit as well because of Dragon's Den. But, it isn't always the dream. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that comes with it. There's a lot of complications that come with it. There's a lot of, you have to grow in lots of ways, and sometimes it can just, you can feel like it's almost like taking over what perhaps you had a vision or a goal, and sometimes it's almost snowballed into something else. So I thought it was really interesting talking to Emma about that and how it happened. I think it's always interesting to hear those stories of people who've grown their businesses so quickly. And I think it's also really interesting that she's kind of moving on to other things now as well. And like you say, she just completely follows her heart. And I'm excited to see what she does next.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Naked Doula is alive and well, and is a brand that's going to continue. With I know Emma's got her book out right now, so definitely check that out via the Naked Doula. And then the next episode we wanted to mention was we spoke to somebody that we both know very, very well and have done for years, and that was the lovely Susie Ashworth. So that was a really interesting conversation, wasn't it? Like, 'cause the three of us know each other really well, and just listening to Susie reflect back on her whole journey, and we've been there for like the entirety of it in different ways. It's been really, really interesting to hear about her success, and it's really inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my favourite bits of the conversation with Susie was that sort of like how she can pivot. A bit like Emma, really. She really follows her heart, like she really follows her intuition. But the thing with Susie, she doesn't let anything stop her. And if that means chucking out a whole course or program that has been an absolute success, she will do it. And I think that she's fascinating to listen to for that reason, because that just, that's just something that most of us won't do, or we don't feel like we're that brave, whatever. So it's definitely, if you want to listen to someone who does business, very differently. And also, like, I really, aspire to be more like Susie as much as I can in that respect, in that sort of just that courage to truly follow my heart and be, my true authentic self, because it is not easy. And
it is not
somehow
easy.
Makes it seem easy, but she, and I think that's what's fascinating about her, basically.
I mean, if Susie didn't have that kind of philosophy and approach in life, then I would not be the owner of the combat school.
So true.
Yeah, it is. So she put everything into that business, and you know, loved it at the time that she sold it to me, you know, but she knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And she didn't resist it. She went with it, and it's because of her conviction in me being the right person to, you know, to take it on, that, you know, definitely drive is part of my motivation as well, to sort of like keep the fires burning bright. So that was definitely,
Yeah. I love that.
that was a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was. And then we also this season quite recently spoke to Gail Berry, who's also somebody that we know quite well.
Yeah.
And Gail really got very honest, didn't she, in that
She's so
chat?
open. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did ask quite a
And
few probing questions though, didn't I?
she went with it.
She
And
did.
I think, you know, Gail also somebody who's built up, you know, such a legacy in the birth and baby world, and is also kind of moving off into to sort of supporting women, and even like the tantric space and all kinds of interesting and exciting places,
Yeah.
and has really sort of really following our heart. Obviously still very much the owner and director of Blossom and Berry Massage. So yeah, really, you know, she really did open up. It was a great conversation for that, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I just really, like you said, like her honesty and her openness, it really kind of drove that conversation. And, you know, Gail's been on such a journey and had a big birthday this year.
Yeah,
So it's been a year of reflection for her, but just like her whole journey from having her children, like leaving her, you know, very high powered career, to then setting up this business, Blossom and Berry Baby Massage and yoga and baby yoga, and then seeing that kind of develop and grow into what it is now, and like it's huge. You know,
yeah,
it's like
I
it's a
know.
very big business now, and she's very open about you know, the challenges that came along the way. And I think that's, you know, something we were going to talk, and maybe that's now a nice sort of segue into it. We're going to talk about some of the themes that kind of ran through the episodes when we're speaking to these different people. And for me, there's definitely two things that stand out. So one, it was very common, very, very, very common that people got into the birth and baby world because of their own experiences,
Yeah,
either in pregnancy or in early parenthood. And they wanted to somehow make a difference, or they had an experience with someone who made a difference to them, and then they felt like, that's what I want to do, I want to be able to
yeah.
pass this on. So that was definitely one of the biggest things for me, and I've just forgotten what the second one is. So
Well, for
can you?
me, I would say I've already touched on it, but that sort of that courage that every single person we've interviewed just says yes. They say yes,
Yeah.
and they don't almost. They sort of it may be a baby steps towards a goal, or it may feel like a big leap, but they say
Mm,
yes, and they don't let the doubts and the fears stop them or make them. Sometimes they'll procrastinate a bit, but that's
mm,
this theme for me. It's just like an opportunity came, they said yes. They had an idea, they said yes. They made it happen, and that's the thing for me that just shines through on the whole of the two series that we've done. Speaking to others was that, you know, you've just got to go for it. Like, what have you got to lose? It's actually a really
mm.
simple message. It doesn't feel simple when we're making those decisions, but actually it's just about saying yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing that I found was quite similar was that everybody faces challenges, and
Yep.
that to go into a business and expect to not have challenges is probably very naive, because
Mhm.
all of these women spoke about things that they found difficult or challenging, or things they had to move through, or, you know, get over, or start again you know, in some situations as well. So that was definitely a theme for me. And then the other thing is that I can't think of a person who doesn't or didn't, from all these episodes, value mentorship or
Yes.
coaching
People
or
came back to
working.
that all the time, didn't they? Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know people listening will be like, well, yeah, of course, because you two are mentors and coaches, so you're going to say that. But seriously, that is what drives people forward. And we know that from our own experience. And, you know, not that I ever thought that those experiences were isolated, but it's great to hear it from other people as well, that having that help and support from those people that are further ahead of you in this industry is something that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and people who can just call out your like thought patterns and stuff and,
Yeah.
just sort of say, have you thought about it this way? Or that's not how I see you, that's not how I see your business. All of that stuff is so important. I think often when we're looking for business support, we're looking for someone to tell us how to do it. But
Mm.
no one really talks about that. Everyone talked about that sort of that real mentor coaching kind of like somebody who they could who could help them unravel the stuff that was going on in their head that was
Yeah.
getting in the way of business, and then inspire them, motivate them, and help them to really believe in themselves. For
Yeah.
me, like when I did coaching with Susie, that was my main thing. It was like trusting and believing in myself that I could do
Mm-hmm.
this. And yeah, everyone talks about that. You're absolutely right. So we know it's not just us who loves the coaching, the mentorship, the support. It is, it really is a theme that runs through people who have businesses like ours that help them
Mm-hmm.
succeed and get to where they are today. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And then the previous two episodes prior to this episode that you're listening to we got to interview each other, didn't we? Because we
Yeah.
thought, hang on a minute, we've spoken to all of these amazing birth and baby business owners and shared their story and learnt from them, and quite aware that a lot of people listening to our podcast might not know the intricacies of our own experiences and journeys. So it was great to get the chance to like fully focus on you for an episode and fully focus on me for an
Yeah.
episode, and there was definitely lots of goodies in both those episodes.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting, isn't it, having our questions asked of yourself?
Yeah,
Like when
it
we
was.
first came up with the idea, well, you came up with the idea, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be like very interesting. Not like for me, but like for listeners. But actually the questions are quite good, and it did definitely evolve into an interesting, on both sides, interesting conversations, and it got me thinking about things that I hadn't really considered recently, or maybe even ever before in my business, and how it grew and developed. So it was a really good experience. So I hope that our guests felt that similar experience, that it was really nice for them to, because we don't do it very often, do we don't often look at our business from a sort of like overview point of view, or step back and go, oh, look what we've achieved. And I suppose that's one thing that hopefully we've been able to do for our guests, is to be able to sort of celebrate them in a little way, by helping them to look at everything that they've done and how they've done it. And I think
Yeah,
that's been a really nice thing of these two
definitely.
series.
I think as well, it's a really important thing to do at the end of every year is some reflection on like the previous year, but also like across your entire journey, because you do, sometimes you forget all the things that you conquered or
Yeah.
you overcome or you achieved or you experienced, and just having some time for reflection on that can be a really great confidence building exercise, and a reminder that even if you're experiencing challenging times right now, you've overcome similar challenging times in the past. I think that's probably the case
Yeah.
for everybody. So definitely, if you get the opportunity towards the end of this year, make sure you are reflecting on your previous achievements and thinking about what you can bring in for 2025.
Absolutely. It's a great time for it. We're going to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, thank you for listening to that. And I just feel, I would love to have spoken about every single episode. It would have been nice to touch on every interview. We just haven't got the time in this podcast episode, but we are, like you said at the beginning, very grateful for everyone who's come on the BABBA podcast in 2024. Got my year right. And thank you, our listeners, for sticking with us and
Yeah.
listening to podcasts. We are so grateful for all of you. We hope that the stuff we talk about is helpful. You tell us it is, so we will keep going, and we love recording this show. And yeah, we look forward to being with you again in 2025.
Brilliant. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.